Thank you, Ashwin. It's been a packed second day of Enterprise Innovation Summit 2021. I'm delighted to be here once again on the screen. Now, before we begin this particular conversation, which I'm anticipating will be full of insights and very practical knowledge, let me spend a minute or two with all of you to give you some context. Uh, so the amount of disruption that we have seen in the last 1 year has actually made us more digitally enabled than past many years put together. Almost all the innovations were directly either asked for or forced upon by the customers, whether it was about enabling the remote workforce or touchless, touchless experiences or any other product or service being consumed. Customers had their way. Organizations across genre, be it a bank, a mobile company, um, tech producers, FMCG companies, retails, food supply chains, healthcare, groceries, and many more. We're all tirelessly trying to innovate and provide a seamless, frictionless experience to their respective customers. Now, important is that these customers, on one hand, are pretty restless to get the product and services like yesterday. And at the same time, they are not ready to compromise with their experience. And that's the reason why there is a fresh new debate on experience innovation and, um, and experience economy. So, how is this whole experience being created? How is technology helping in shaping up this experience? What are the nuances that have cropped up in the past 15 to 18 months that we need to deal with? Um, Whole lot of issues that have emerged to debate and to solve. To talk on a lot of more interesting issues, I would like to now welcome Sanjay Netrabile, um, Chief Technology Officer of Pepperfry. Sanjay has spent a good 10 years here, and before this, he has worked with Zapak.com, Times Internet in senior roles. Hello, Sanjay. Welcome to the EIS 2021. How are you doing?
I'm doing good, Rahul. How are you?
I'm great. Um, so let me begin this conversation by asking you how these past 15 to 18 months have been for Pepperfry from business point of view. I mean, what changed? What got augmented? What did you as a CTO learn?
Life changed for all of us, right? As a starting point. But as we went into the starting of the lockdown, we were very quick in our feet. And as we became the lockdown became more synonymous as the time went by, we realized a lot of things which we had prepared for before the pandemic actually was just an extension of that. For example, we are already doing a lot of partnerships with our merchants and SMEs. So that got augmented because we had to handle them through the pandemic. There were cost issues, there were cash perspective. So we actually handled them through the pandemic, supported them, and they're actually our merchants who have been there for some time. And that's how we helped them in one perspective. The second perspective was that the what surprised us was also the resilience in our core business. Furniture being our core business, what came out the fact that as people spent a lot of time at home, they realized that the sofa which they were kind of spending say 3 to 4 hours over the weekend became a necessity throughout the week, and that led to growth in our core business. But at the same time, because of the lockdown, we were kind of looking at delivery timelines which were way above normal, and that led to a supply chain kind of looking forward as to how we can manage that part of it. The third, which came most important, was the growth in tier two and tier three cities. Now, the internet was not that great in the tier two cities. Our implementation in that area was quite less before the pandemic, but after the pandemic, we saw tremendous growth in the tier two, tier three cities, and that's where we are looking forward to working towards now. From a technology perspective, what changed for us and what augmented was the security strategy which we need to have, because all our people working remotely, what we had in place before even the pandemic started actually helped us carried forward. We already had MFA in place. We already had a proper VPN for our customer support who can take calls from their wherever they are pan India, and that actually kind of helped us stream the pandemic properly. From a perspective of what I learned to take care of my health. I learned to I put in studies in place to lose weight because that's what actually most of us did, right? I also learned a lot in trying to improve communication. That actually becomes one of my core talking points. Is that as we went away from being in a social construct in the office where you get together, chit chat, gossip, and discuss stuff, when you go into a video calling kind of strategy, you can't, right? The barrier is there. You're not talking person to person. I'm not kind of having a handshake with you. I'm not like hugging you and all those stuff. And that was changing the change in the way that we communicate within the org and within the teams as well. So the meetings being more very shortened, very more up to the point, but at the same time, having a balance of informal communication within the teams became very important for us. So we used to have time set out. Even now we do have, as we go along, is that Thursday or Friday, each of the teams has time set out to have an informal discussion. You don't talk work. You just talk about anything apart from work. You crack jokes, you play games, you talk about the family, introduce the family, everything. And that actually came out. That got augmented a lot. And the people realized that, other people realized that their colleagues who were brothers, sisters, sons, basically, as well as have wife and children, they were introducing them on the screen. And that's very interesting. And that's a very big learning for me as a person.
No, great. I think the way you started this whole, constructed the answer actually summarizes the whole conversation that we are going to have in the in these next 25 odd minutes. But you said it right, that a lot of things which were already in pipeline got a lot augmented once we confronted this very unforeseeable incident that occurred and that took shape. Nobody knew and nobody could predict that this will unfold in this shape and form. So you very briefly touched about the core business of Pepperfry. It's an organized furniture, artifact, and accessories retail company. From a purely online model, it now boasts of a very hybrid model wherein, if I'm not wrong, there are 70 odd stores and 4 warehouses, plus, of course, the regular e-tailing business. Give us some sense of how the different technology pieces work here. What is the landscape of technology about the monolithic applications? How is the infrastructure, whether it is cloud, hybrid? What does most of the customer-facing technology stack? How does most of the customer-facing technology stack works?
That's a 4-hour presentation you're talking about. But leaving that apart, let me give you a brief context. When you start off selling furniture online, it was not that prevalent in the market, right? We were one of the first movers in this area. Way before, I think around 2014, we realized that we needed a way to let customer touch and feel our furniture. We have got solid wood, shisha wood, mango wood, and all this kind of furniture. And that's how you kind of make it work. And we had a R&D setup within downstairs our own office in Mumbai, where we set up a small shop, a studio, as I would say. And then we saw how customers or our users are interacting with our furniture and how they are expressing their interest in designing the house, in getting what could fit and what could not. So that in 2014, we realized that in 2015, around March, April, we launched the first studio in Bangalore. So there's a long strategy we have, and thanks to Ambrish and Ashish, who are the founders and co-founders, they thought about it a long way back. And actually now we're going to touch about 100 studios very soon. And we are looking to basically have 20 studios each month till next March. So that's the kind of expansion plan we're talking about. We see a lot of potential in this area. As I spoke about the growth, the tier 2, tier 3 cities, where we are expanding as well. And we're doing a lot of partnership with FOFO. For example, we have got franchisee-owned, franchise-operated, as well as company-owned, company-operated studios. And that's how we are moving along. Talking about the technology landscape, when we started off in 2011, when the first website, the first code of the web written, we were cloud native. We never ever had any of our own servers. We always knew that the cloud is way to go. It changed. It's a paradigm way of working around things. It's basically changed the entire landscape, as we all know. And right from the get-go, we were on cloud, and that has helped actually upscale and downscale as the seasons go and come, and as we scale with the features and as we upscale, it has helped us tremendously in the way we operate. Looking at the technology landscape, we were a monolith earlier on in terms of the customer interface, whereas most of the functionality grew because we're also trying to find a way, getting a feedback, I would say, trying to what would work and making it the MVP part of it was trying to become very hard for us. And the monolith started from there, right from the customer interfaces to our supply chain to our customer support, everything became a monolith starting off. Around 2017, we moved to a SOA, a service-oriented architecture, where most of the data uplifting as well as the data processing and all the core logic resided in services, which we built as a Java layer. And that basically helped us ensure that the customer interface has become quite light in nature. So basically, we could reskin our website and our mobile website very easily. Around the same time, 2017, we realized that the mobile devices, the smartphones, become much more prevalent in the hands of all the people. And our target audience was also moving along to seeing that people was more of browsing the website more on the web, on the mobile website, and closing the purchase on the desktop website. Because I can very easily on the get-go while I'm traveling, wish list my purse which I want, and my wife could do the same. And then we get together over the weekend as a family, and then we look at on the desktop and then look at the bigger screen and then close the purchase from there on. So that kind of transition, and right now the mobile website and our app is a far higher share compared to the desktop browser.
Okay.
So that's how we have transitioned. Even on the app side, we have been native. We're using Swift on the iOS side and Kotlin on the Android side. But the idea was ensure that whatever interfaces we have, we keep it lightweight and all the data processing happens on a SOA architecture. So that's one. But that was taking care of the customer interfaces. When you look at the supply chain, which seems to be more structured because the innovation happens more long term. You're playing with the part of the supply chain process, so you can't basically change your architecture quite often. So most of the old technologies, lies over there, whereas most of the bleeding edge work happens on the front end side.
Yeah.
But even now, as we are saying, we're talking more about all the micro front ends on the customer interfaces at the same time as we're doing changes to a customer interface, to a supply chain interface. Because as the pandemic rolled out, the micro lockdowns actually played a big part in enhancing our supply chain software as we grew along. So we learned a lot during the way, because most of the times when we had a monolith, the change was not possible. We were not able to be agile on our feet. But over the last 1.5 years, we have been very agile. Our internal systems people internally use, basically we can change whatever we can in terms of that from that perspective. So we have been quite agile from that sense.
No, I think unlike the supply chains of the fast-moving goods or the fast-moving products, the supply chain of a furniture delivery platform is not that easy. If I'm understanding it correctly, it actually has some complexities right from the sourcing to the travel time and delivery and fitment. I mean, that's also a big part of the whole supply chain. So wonderful. I think kudos to you, and I'm sure during this time that there must be a remarkable reduction in how you reach out to people. I mean, how the product reaches out to the people's homes. So Sanjay, the core theme of this summit is innovation, and this particular day's theme is experience innovation. And when it comes to the customer experience, buying furniture online is quite a new phenomenon for Indians. While in the developed economies, the IKEAs of the world have been doing it for a while, but only 9% of the Indian furniture market is organized, as I'm given to understand by the secondary data that I have culled out, and rest all is scattered. It's all very unorganized. So, if I may ask you this question, how does technology help in product designing, visualization, selling, and finally delivering the product?
Got it. Good question. Just before I answer this particular question, let me give you a brief background of experience from my perspective. We got three types of frontline warriors. We got our studios who talk to our customers every day. We got our customer support executives who interact with the customers, and we got our supply chain executives who do the last minute delivery. So these people are our people who talk to our customers, get the experience, and give us the feedback on that. Going forward from the technology perspective, we actually have been working on the AR bit for quite some time. We were dabbling with virtual reality for last 2 years. We're actually going to go with a furniture-less studio last year, which is basically pure VR based. But after the pandemic struck, we kind of rolled it back. But I think for the coming one and a half years, I think we'll see a more advanced version of a studio-less structure, or how we want to interface with the customers. Talking about the AR perspective, when we started off around 3 years back, we were dabbling with how can we make the experience more suitable for our users. Now, what happens is that our users want to look at the furniture, how it looks if I place that particular bit of furniture in my house in a space which I've allocated to that furniture. Now that's the point we started off with. Can we look at the overlay on the camera app within our Pepperfry app, and look at how people can drag a 2D object of a furniture and drag and drop and look at how it works. Now that's rudimentary. You're talking about a 2D object where you can't roam around the object. About 2 years back, we started migrating all our furniture which we had into 3D objects. What that basically helped us was to let the user come around those objects and look from a different perspective at the same time. So that helped us quite a lot. Now going forward, as I was speaking about the studio-less virtual reality, we actually talked to a lot of companies who can make the experience far more seamless. We felt that the VR was not quite there. Even though we wanted to be simple, because we talk in a virtual environment where the users are not used to being in a virtual environment. They're first-time users who have never perhaps been exposed to a virtual environment, and they put on that gadget and then they use that handheld devices to move around the virtual environment. What we found was that there's a lack of a third person to help the customer or the user in that virtual environment. So a multi-user interface within the virtual environment became a constraint for us at that point of time. So as we went along, we tried to work with a lot of companies, trying to find out ways where we can put our studio folks, our customer support people within the same environment as the customer is, and guide the customer throughout the journey. The other thing we found that the time duration spent in that VR environment was also limited. There's a sense of a different sense that people try to lose focus, or perhaps you can't. For example, I can browse the website for half an hour, but I can't spend that amount of time in a virtual environment. It tends to be not that suitable. And another thing we found that what we could do basically, as the customer is playing in the virtual environment and putting all the furniture which she or he wants to put and make into a living room perhaps, we could take that entire room, whatever furniture is in place, and check out from there itself. So rather than letting the customers come to outside the environment and then do the purchase, we were looking at ways we could let the customer purchase from there itself.
Okay.
These are the constraints we are facing. We are still working with people, working with companies to try to solve these areas which we feel that there will be a kind of disconnect with the customer experience, which we want, a seamless customer disconnect. And as we go along, we'll see a lot more. We are going forward in an alternative way. We are going looking at instead of virtual reality, we still call it VR, but it's called a virtual room.
Okay.
So we are working towards that. So we are looking forward to how we can have a virtual room on the desktop or the mobile browser. Actually, more suitable to the desktop, where the users and the studio folks can put the furniture in the living room pocket, basically put all the stuff over there and check out from that environment itself. So that's a way of making it seamless for our users.
I think that's really great. A question which is tied up with this discussion is that how do you foster this streak of innovation within the organization? Is it something like an open innovation that you are inviting many other partners to come and participate in the innovation, co-create? Or is it very proprietary to Pepperfry, happens in a very closed door environment? How does that? How do you foster the innovation?
Ideas are not proprietary. Ideas can come to any person, right? So ideas is where it starts from. Basically, talking to our customers, trying to find better ways of giving them a seamless experience, and that's where we also start from, answering the why, what, and how. Basically, trying to understand how we can make it easier for our users to get what they want in a manner that we can basically not put kind of hardship in the place. For example, do they need to come to the studios to get a touch and feel? Can we go to them? Now we are hearing of ways that you can also let smell be a part of the virtual environment. Till now, touch is also coming in place. You also have good gloves, which can give you that experience of basically you're touching a object. Okay. So those ways we are looking at. A long way to go. Still, the gloves are really heavy, I tell you. So a long way to go. But I think there's a lot of future involved in letting the users experience, giving an amazing experience to the users in their own home environment. And as I talk about idea generation, we just basic answer: why, what, and how do we reach out to our users much more.
So the way this whole augmented reality is actually surfacing, and I'm sure this is going to be the most fascinating part of the experience that you're going to create for your customers. Are there other areas, for example, mapping a customer life cycle, mapping a customer journey, or trying to capture customer preferences to upsell, cross-sell? Are you using certain pieces of technology like artificial intelligence?
When a user comes to a website, we don't know what the user wants to buy, what the user is looking for. Unlike apparel or a mobile phone where you're perhaps trying to window browse, furniture is an item which you call more of necessity.
Absolutely.
It occupies a lot of space and volume in the house, and it's more of a family purchase. You don't decide for yourself. Unless you're a bachelor and living alone, but then you go for a different kind of furniture. But as you go along, you realize that there are areas where you can improve stuff for our users. Now, very simplistic way. When you go to buy a sofa, you will not go look at dining tables. Okay, the focus is to buy a sofa. You already have a dining table at home.
True.
So why should I show you dining tables when the intention is to buy a sofa? Simplest. There's no technology. It's just of ensure that there's a menu on top of a website which gives you a proper category hierarchy. So you can go to the one-seater sofa, two-seater sofa, or three-seater sofa, or even a king-size bed or a queen-size bed. You go to where you want. So I'm not talking about technology. I'm talking about experience. Now coming to technology area, we track user journeys. We love to look at as to how we can make the user journey much more seamless. We look at how we can basically ensure that what the user is looking for, we give it the get-go. But that's the problem when the user first comes to the site. So we're trying to find ways using our models, and more of AI is a long way, but using machine learning models where we can find out how we can improve and give our furniture updates to our users when they look at listings. Perhaps there's already a site table which has been brought about a year back, and we know the decor is more contemporary rather than basically old style furniture, or with more modern industrial based furniture, where we can actually try to let the customer know that this kind of beds or sofas are also available on our site. So those kind of areas, that's a big area which we are looking at ML, and we have already implemented is supply chain side and our customer support experience. They're both very closely tied up. We're looking at ways where we are seeing that I would like to give the example of a film called Minority Report. Plays the lead, and there's three female kind of who look at the future and can say who would be a murderer or thieving and all that stuff. So that's one of the holy grails where I can find out what, first of all, from the user experience side, I give to the customer, and from the handholding side till the delivery, can I know where will the customer come into my queue? Where will the customer reach out to my customer support? Where should I have a more proactive communication? And those are things which we are learning and implementing as we go along.
So coming to the fag end of my conversation with you, innovation will play a very decisive role as far as the intuitiveness is concerned from a company's perspective, and accuracy is concerned from a customer's perspective. Now, when we search something on a website, we always kind of get a little dissuaded by the fact that it is not as accurate as I wanted it to be. So where do you think the innovation should be channelized to make things more intuitive, more accurate?
Good question. If you put blinders on a horse and say that this is the area which you should be looking at, is not the right perspective. I think innovation has to come in all the parts of life, and user experience in terms of how we can deliver to our users. And if they all get together, that's why I think the innovation truly shines. If it's one area but the other area suffers, that's not the way. Innovation has to happen across the board. It can't be put into, like I said, horse blinders and then say, oh, look only this. No, that's not the way. I would agree to that. I would look at the entire perspective.
Okay, so one last question, in the interest of time, is that what would be the top 2-3 priorities in terms of innovation when you're looking into the near future from a customer experience point of view?
I'm learning as we go along, to be honest. Future is something I have not written and I don't know. So I also look at articles, I read about new things being done by other companies. I also look at what the scientific community is doing, and I try to extract bits and pieces of it and how it gels into what we want to be. And as we go along is basically trying to get our feet wet and trying to be at the bleeding edge. There's a old edge, is a cutting edge, is a bleeding edge.
Bleeding edge.
Trying to learn the bleeding edge and trying to make it work for us, I think, if I give you out areas where I could see a future in, I could possibly be totally wrong. I'm not sure. But what I can see in the future is giving a better customer experience, being available to the customers when and where they want it, and being more proactive in the ways we communicate to the customers, and being good at that is something which I would like to achieve.
Great. So, the crux of this whole conversation is that there's a steady momentum towards giving customers a better experience, which is based on continuous innovation, wholesome innovation. It should not be like horse blinders where you only focus on a particular area or aspect of either technology or business. So it has to be wholesome. You have to keep your ears, eyes, and all senses, in working shape. So thank you, Sanjay. Thanks a lot for talking with us. It was a very delightful conversation.
Thanks, Rahul. Just to close it off, I'm not selling software. I'm selling furniture products. Absolutely. So technology has to work for the business, and that's how I look at it.
Absolutely. Technology has to work for the business. There you go. That's the final nail in the coffin. So thank you very much once again. And over to you, Ashwin.